morning, everyone. Thank you very much, PMS Bazaar team, for hosting such a great event and inviting us to be part of this journey. And I can see on a Saturday morning, the house is full. So that, of course, shows the interest in India. And at the same time, I think when you come to Dubai, you never feel like you are out of India. It's almost mini India or India here. It's an extension of Indian city. So to that extent, you feel at home. I'm sure, unlike many other parts of the world, Dubai is much closer, and all of you have fairly good insights into what is happening in India. But at the same time, I think it is never same being there on the ground and feeling that firsthand. So I think some of you might be very, very aware about what's happening in India, but today what I'll try and do is build a perspective that what is really happening in India, how should you look at India, what are the real opportunities in India. Some of you might be already aware, and some of the things which you will sort of come to know. But I do believe that looking slightly, from a 30,000 feet perspective, build a very different perspective to evaluate any market, any country from an opportunity point of view. So all of us know that, and why Amritkaal, right? All of us know that our Prime Minister has given the vision that Amritkaal is a period of 75 to 100 years. By the time India turns 100, there is a vision set out that we will become a developed nation, or at least we are aspiring to be a developed nation. And so today, in next 10-15 minutes or so, I will examine that what does it mean, to by the time India turns 100, what will happen, and more importantly, why it will happen. Because saying that it will happen is one thing, but understanding that why this time we have a high chance of making it happen is a very, very important aspect to understand. So, we all know that, Bharat was Sone ki Chiriya 300 years ago, 400 years ago. Our share in the GDP was, So our share in the GDP was 15-16%. We were a quarter of a GDP, sorry. So was with the China, and that's the reason we were called Sone ki Chiriya, because we were a very, very prosperous society. And during the British Raj, we lost a lot of our prosperity, a lot of our prowess, and our share of GDP went to abysmally 2-3%, right? And same thing happened with China. But China embarked on the journey of regaining that lost share in the world GDP about 35-40 years ago. India actually has meaningfully started a journey in last 10 years, right? So as we see over next, let's say 25 years or so, by the time India turns 100 by 2047, what can be achieved? So today our GDP, which is about in and around $4 trillion, will get to a range of $29 to $30 trillion. Our per capita income, which is about $2,500, will get to about $18,000. And also, the share of GDP will get anywhere between 15-16% of the global, trade. These are the, very, very big if we are able to achieve this kind of acceleration, this will put us in that, stage of where we can get to a developed status, or if not fully developed, but near developed status of the country. Now, let us examine why this is possible, or this time, or what are the odds of this happening this time, right? So very importantly, if you see last 10 years, lots of foundational work has happened, right? Can you just help me with this 1 second, please? So a lot of foundational work has happened in last 10 years. Number one, and there are broadly 3 pillars of, this is not moving to this. Okay. Yeah, this is fine. Look like it's moving this time. Okay. So I think, see, in last 10 years, we have done a lot of reforms. Broadly, 3 pillars of reform. Number one, we have carried out long pending economic reforms. I'm sure you must have seen and heard and felt, GST, IBC, RERA, and many more. I mean, long pending laws have been replaced. And there is a very big difference between the economic reforms this time and what were done in the previous era. If you remember, 1992 also India carried out economic reforms, but those reforms were by compulsion. India almost went bankrupt. We were out of the currency, and World Bank forced us to do those reforms. So they were not sort of out of conviction. This is the first time in the history of independent India in last 10 years, lot of painful economic reforms we have carried out by choice, by design, and by conviction, not by compulsion. And that's a very big difference between this time's reform. Doing that when you have no choice is a very different approach versus doing when you need to do because it is right for putting the country into a very different path. And I'm sure all of it, we have repealed almost 1,000+ laws. Our Indian Penal Code, which was designed in 1800s, have now been recently. So lots of basically every aspect, not only economic reforms, but every aspect of law is being redesigned, relooked at it. And this is a very big different mindset from the past, that how we have started looking at reform. Second one, which again I'm sure most of you are aware, digital transformation. India has undertaken a significant amount of digital transformation, which is unprecedented in the in India, of course, and in many parts of the world. Our digital stack, whether it is DBT, our trio of identity, everything is being, is at a scale which I think is not existing in anywhere in the world. And many countries are now trying to implement those in their parts of the world to bring that. Impact of that is very big. Like I'm sure all of you have seen that how a lot of money which was supposed to reach to the poor was not reaching, and famous statement by Rajiv Gandhi that 90% of the money gets lost into the channel, and it is only because of the digital reforms and digital infrastructure we've been able to build. A lot of efficiency has come, and there's a long way to go. By the way, it's not stopping here. India is building on many more stacks, whether it is ONDC to OCAN to many more platforms, which will be game changing, which will be disruptive to existing many practices in the Western world. So digital transformation has undergone and is undergoing. And third, very big change, which is infrastructural reforms. India is building infrastructure like it has never built before. Roads, railways, ports, airports, every aspect of you see, and I'm sure most of you visit India, you can see India is being built at a very rapid pace. So the point I'm trying to make is a very big foundational work has happened in last 10 years. That is very, very, and based on this foundational work, now India is building upon its growth trajectory. But more importantly, important to this foundational work, I want to share a few things that more than this, I think there are certain big mindset change which have happened. And it is those mindset changes which are going to drive India into the next, propel India into the next orbit or next territory. See, mindset takes a lot of time to build, and it takes a lot of time to take it away. And what are these mindsets? Let's revisit. Number one mindset which has changed in India is India has moved from incremental mindset to exponential mindset. No more India thinks that we will take 20 or 30 years to address a problem. We are addressing everything with a different sense of speed. Everything in banking for all in 3-4 years, housing for all in 5 years, power for all, and even corporate sector, which is when they are putting expansion, they are putting expansion more than in next 5 years, more than what they have put in 50 years. So a lot of change in the mindset of the country at a large has happened, and that has a huge economic impact. Number two mindset change which has happened is India has moved from constrained mindset to non-constrained mindset. What do I mean by that? All of us have grown up believing, or we were kind of convinced that India is a poor country. We don't have money, right? It's kind of almost imprinted in our psychology, right? And every time that we don't have money, if you remember famous A.K. Antony statement in the parliament in 2012 that we don't have money for defense, right? Think about now, fast forward, same country, same people, same economy, we have money for everything. It's a very big mindset. No more India, you would not hear anybody saying that we don't have money. In fact, some of the ministers like Nitin Gadkari have said that I have no shortage of money, I have a shortage of execution capacity, that how much I can execute, right? When you have this, when any country, and you think about it, mindsets makes a very big difference. What has changed in 10 years? Same country, same resources, but they don't say we don't. We need to build world-class infrastructure, we need to build world-class setup, and we will manage resources, what is needed to be for that. And we have done beautifully in last sort of 10 years or so, and we continue to aspire high to meet our needs for that. Number 3 mindset which has happened is, historically, whenever India faced a problem, we look towards West for solution to its problems. No more the case. India has found the confidence to find solutions to its own problem in its own way, suiting to its own society, its own country. Whether it is UPI, COVID, many examples are there where we are not looking towards West, please humko bachao, help us, what can we do? If you remember, during COVID time, many MNCs blackmailed us for, providing vaccine to sign unfavorable terms of contract. India did not buckle into the pressure, rather it decided to waste that we will invent our own vaccine. If you go back and remember now, in fact, that turned out to be, how did we get that mindset that we will not buckle into, but we will do something like that? UPI, again, nowhere in the world, many such things are happening, which are India is finding its own solution to its own problem. And this is, and in fact, I see of a time where India will other way we will provide that knowledge, we will provide influence to the other countries in the world. Number 4, India is innovating at a scale and a low cost. UPI, telecom are the classic example. Nowhere in the world, including China, less than $2 unlimited data on phone. Nowhere in the world. In fact, interesting, China has about ARPU of 500 rupees, where they have no spectrum cost. In India, we have a huge spectrum cost. Despite that, we have only $2 a month of data. This is a private sector innovation. How we have achieved that? Same at many, whether it is space, whether it is many sectors. I mean, 2 weeks ago I was in Aero India show. I was amazed to see how youngsters. I mean, I also couldn't believe that how people are innovating, taking their ventures, and government is supporting, private sector is supporting. So India is actually unleashing innovation at a very, very rapid pace. Of course, it takes time to get reflective. Partly we are seeing, but in times to come, you will see much more of that. 5th, historically, we were told only 2 models of ism, socialism or capitalism, right? We were told that, but India has last 10 years beautifully experimented that social welfare and development are not at odds. Both can coexist and both can, and are relevant for a society like ours, right? Which is a huge society and a huge, India has uplifted 25 crores people out of poverty in last 10 years, unprecedented in any human history, right? And the last but not the least is, when it comes to global stage, we all know, we all feel that India is not sitting in the corner. India is sitting at the center, driving the agenda, taking center, being assertive, what it needs to be done for its own country required, right? When it came to, recently during Ukraine war time, when India needed to, manage its inflation, it was okay taking a difficult call to import things from Russia. And many more such examples. I'm sure all of us can feel that how India is playing at a global level very differently when it comes to diplomacy or geopolitical situation. So these are the very big mindset changes which we are seeing in the country, and once this mindset changes happen, see, it's like same thing that you were earlier feeling very low about it. Today you have far more confident, society, far more confident country. And when you have confidence, you tend to achieve, things better, a better way, right? So all these trends will lead to 3 things: strength, scale, and speed. Now, we are the most populous country in the world. We are the youngest country in the world with a 28 years of age. And we are the most aspirational society in the world. So these 3 things will lead to massive wealth creation. In fact, I like to say that generally, I'm sure all of you are investors, go back in your investing history, last 20, 30 years of any company which has created good wealth, what are the common factors in that companies? You will find 3 common factors in those companies: strength, scale, and speed. And friends, we are seeing these 3 factors happening at the country level, which makes us believe that India is actually embarking on this journey over next 10, 15, 20 years, which will of course, push us into a different orbit, but also will lead, most importantly, relevant for people here, to a significant wealth creation cycle, right? Now, let me, give you what are the various broad trends, and, so broadly speaking, one big mega trend which cannot be reversed, everything can be reversed, but one trend can't be reversed, is our demographic. India is the youngest nation with 28 years of median age. 2/3 of our population is working age population. We will supply 25% of incremental world population. In fact, our close competitor China, there the median age is 38 years, right? And aging. But in fact, there they have an interesting social problem because of their one-child policy before. Every working couple has now 4 dependent parents and 2 dependent children now. So you have 6 dependent. It creates a huge stress on any society, on any family, right? And China is not getting younger. So what opportunity China used 20, 30 years ago, it is there in front of us. And I will not go into each of trends for the want of time, but I'll just give you a few. Other thing which is big time changed is, India historically never focused on manufacturing. In last 3-4 years, specifically post-COVID, there's a huge focus on replacing India, building India's manufacturing prowess. It is very, government realized that it's very dangerous when you have a country which is the most populous country, relying only on imported goods. It's a very vulnerable situation, right? Both from economic as well as a geopolitical perspective. So government is embarking on aggressive sort of self-reliance program, and I do believe that, India has a very good shot at. We are already seeing lots of signs of it. I'm sure you read that we are now second largest exporter of the mobile phones to, we are anyway, very large player. We supply global medicines to auto components, specialty chemical. I mean, many segments where India has a proven capability. All just we needed was an enabling environment to accelerate that, and enabling supply side environment and enabling demand environment. Demand environment got opened up with the China plus sentiment. Supply environment got opened up with the support and enabling policies of the government. So these are the things which are really building, and manufacturing is going to be a very big accelerating factor for India in times to come. Global GCCs are coming. India is building 100 global capability center. One center employs 1,000 to 5,000 people. I don't need to tell you what happens when you have these kind of people getting employed and working, which are providing services to the countries abroad. Digitization, India is taking a very big lead. So many such sustainability, India is taking a very big lead. Historically, again, India would be, following these kind of leading practices. But today, India is saying what needs to be done, what is good for the world. We will take a lead. We will not be just sitting in the corner side. So everywhere, if you see, India is taking a lot of leads, and these will create massive opportunities inside. Now, let me quickly tell you a few. I mean, there are many. I will not probably. What does it mean in terms of, there are many, broadly, I mean, 5 broad opportunity spaces you can categorize: manufacturing, financial services, consumption, infrastructure, and services. Broadly, there are 5 buckets of the sort of opportunities, and there's a lot of data. I'm sure you'll get the presentation there, so I don't want to take your time on that. But let me give you a little bit of, context in terms of what is possible in times to come. So last year, if you look at total corporate profit of India was about $177 billion. In 23, it was $150 billion. Okay. In 2001, it was $8 billion. So in 20 years, from $8 billion to $160, $170 billion, you moved your total corporate profits of India. Now think about it. In this period of 20 years, you had all kinds of problems. You had multiple government changes, UPA 1, UPA 2, global financial crisis, 3G scam, coal scam, Fragile 5, demonetization, GST, IL&FS crisis, pandemic, Ukraine war. I mean, you can think of every possible crisis has happened, could happen, have happened. Despite that, India's corporate profitability moved by 20x. Index moved from 800 points to 23,000 points. So we saw this, right? So it's not that India was not delivering. India has delivered. But today, we have a setup which is far more solid, which is far more stable, far more scalable, right? So this $160-170 billion of profit by 2035. Now, what can happen? Because one is a historical thing, but what can happen in next 10 years and 25 years? In next 10 years, this profit is likely to get to $1 trillion, right? And by 47 to $2.5 trillion. Now, think about it. If I was making this presentation in 2001 or 2 when our corporate profits was $8 billion and I said in 20 years we'll get to $160 billion, I'm sure there'll be very few takers. So long term is always it's very difficult to estimate. It's very difficult to kind of believe. So, but it has happened, right? And that's the reason I'm showing the historical data. So once it reaches, by 35 or 36, it will go to $1 trillion, and by 47, it will go to $2.5 trillion. For discussion's sake, let's keep it only $1 trillion. It means our market cap at $1 trillion of corporate profits will be anywhere between 20 to 25 trillion dollars, which is today at around $4.5 to $5 trillion. So you have over next 10, 11 years an opportunity to make 4 to 5x. Your Nifty can be anywhere between 1 lakh to 1,25,000. And if one does a little bit of outperformance, if portfolio managers, fund managers do a little bit more, you can make even more return, right? So India is offering that kind of opportunity over next 10 to 12 years. And again, there are many data. Like if you see one of the data which is there in this, and why I try to say this, because it is very hard to believe that what can happen in long term. There's a very nice saying by Bill Gates that we overestimate what can be achieved in 1 year and underestimate what can be achieved in 10 years. That's human mind is not designed to comprehend those kind of things. But look at number of billion-dollar company, more than $1 billion market cap company in 2000 were only 20. Today we have 500 companies. More than $10 billion, we had only 2 companies. Today we have almost 97 companies, 100 companies of $2 billion from 2 companies in 20 years. If we kind of made this projection in 20 years ago, I'm sure there will be very few takers. We had no $100 billion market cap company. India's total market cap was about $250 billion. Today we have 3 companies more than $100 billion market cap, right? So this is how size and scale changes when any economy or nation grows significantly, and that, according to us, is going to grow another 10x in next many years. A lot of questions there in people's mind, of course, about liquidity and all those things. So according to us, and again, fortunately, this time around, a lot of domestic money is coming into Indian equities, but a lot of people doubt that. According to me, what we have seen is just the beginning of a big trend, right? Today, India has only about 4.5% of total household savings into their equities, which was 10 years ago about 1%. If this number goes to 10%, over next 10 years, we will have about $2 trillion of additional liquidity coming from domestic shareholders. Same way for foreigners. Today Indian FIs have been selling in India because whenever Fed rate goes up, emerging markets money get pulled out. And India today is emerging market is asset class. So that is being pulled out. But if you ask me, even if there will be time when Fed rate starts coming down, whether it is 6 months, 9 months down the line, you will see massive flow coming back. If every investor, global investor, become equal weight on India, I'm not asking overweight. If India is one of the most promising market, you cannot keep on ignoring market for long. You will find another trillion to trillion and a half, $1.5 trillion flows coming through. According to me, liquidity will remain fairly strong. So earnings growth and liquidity, combination of both always drive the significant wealth creation. So according to me, we are in a very good phase. And only a few words I can give on the risks. Very often people worry about what are the potential risks, what can go wrong. So I always say short-term corrections, don't take short-term correction as a risk, short-term corrections as they are more opportunity. But historically, if you see in India where 30-40% correction has happened or large corrections have happened, it has happened only for 5 reasons. Okay, whenever India, and we will revisit, see that how how are we placed on that. Number one, whenever our current account deficit goes out of hand. So India has today current account deficit. 2012 we became part of Fragile 5, where our current account deficit became 4.5%. Today it is 1%. So, and with the manufacturing and focus on services, it is likely to go in next 5-7 years even better and maybe towards current account surplus. Second, fiscal deficit. Whenever any country's fiscal deficit goes out of hand, including India in the past, because government borrows more and inflation goes up and it impacts the economic growth. Today, our fiscal is one of the best managed around the world. In fact, in this year also, we had a great, despite all the pressure, we embarked on the fiscal consolidation in the budget. So government is committed to grow responsibly, not irresponsibly. Third, banking sector. Whenever, whether it was 2012, 8, 1, whenever our banking sector in the crisis, NPAs are 8, 9, 10%, entire economy starts struggling. IL&FS crisis was a great result of that. Today, in India, the net NPA of the banking sector is 0.5%. It is never unprecedented. Last 50 years, 70 years, it has never happened. So our banking system is squeaky clean, ready to grow, and well capitalized, well prepared. Fourth, inflation. Whenever inflation goes out of hand, India starts sort of struggling. Any country starts struggling. We saw what happened post-Ukraine war. Many economies in the European world start struggling. India managed that beautifully and is managing beautifully. I always say this jokingly that it is very hard to put value to the accidents avoided. Imagine if India did not import Ukraine oil, what would have happened to our economy? It would have been a very, very different situation, right? So we don't realize the value of accidents if it has not happened. We know if it happens, what would have happened, right? So inflation is a very, very well managed situation today in our country. And last but not the least, the leverage, the debt to equity or corporate debt to GDP. We are debt to GDP, corporate debt is at 76, 78, 7%. Again, lowest in the world. And one of the only country whose debt to GDP has come down post global financial crisis. So our entire leverage cycle is still ahead of us. So our structural weaknesses are not there. And the analogy I like to give is that, these are like our vitals of our body. If viral attacks can happen, but if viral attacks happen and my vitals are strong, then I will be down with the fever, but I won't be, ICU case or I won't be basket case. But if my vitals are strong, it might be fatal, it might be very, very disturbing. So our vitals of the economy are very, very strong. Of course, no journey goes smooth. There is always, nature of the journey is, it is going to up and down because markets are, collection of the humans, big human psychology. So, we think that, India is in one of the best wealth creation cycle over next 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. And, if you have that perspective in mind, I think the compounding journey India has offered, but in fact, I feel that India has a best compounding journey ahead of us. Like I said, that most people overestimate what can be achieved in 1 year, underestimate what can be achieved in 10 years. So I would say that a lot of these things, there are two ways to think that. One is that, that these are big, big figures, I don't know. And second is to believe in them. Morgan Housel once said that, an optimist sounds like a salesperson, a pessimist sounds like a well-wisher. So, I might have sounded like a salesperson, but I do believe that India is in one of those inflection point where I think it will, most people will not be able to even fathom what kind of wealth creation is ahead of us. And that is what the journey we are embarking on. So this is my view on India, and maybe I'll give a 2 minutes this thing on our firm. Carnelian, we are a boutique asset management firm based out of Mumbai. We manage approximately $1.2 billion, raised from largely the families from India, many large marquee families, Dabur, Havells, Wipro, TVS, many large families of our clients. We are about 75 people in size, 6 years old. The entire 3 co-founders. So the entire founding team. I was CEO of Edelweiss before starting Carnelian, and the other founders, Swati and Manoj, were also part of Edelweiss team. So our key of, why we left our corporate jobs and started this firm is we believe that India is at that inflection point where, what US was in 80s, what Japan was in 65 to 89, those are the periods, and over next 10, 15, 20 years, there will be massive opportunity for wealth creation, and people will need help to create, manage and create wealth. And that is what we are trying. Our vision is to build a firm which 8-10 years down the line, we can look back with a lot of pride and satisfaction. We have many funds, which I'm sure you'll find, but if you just look at the rightmost column, you will find our performance alpha in terms of, our first fund has delivered 9% alpha, almost close to 23% CAGR for last 6 years. But we launched our manufacturing fund, what is called Shift Strategy, in October 2020. Which is 6 months after pandemic. Everybody started talking manufacturing only last 1-2 years. But we could pick up that India is, in a very different stage of manufacturing. India is embarking on a very big journey on the manufacturing. We launched our fund in September, October 2020, and that fund has delivered almost 40% CAGR over last close to 5 years. Recently, we launched the Bharat Amritkaal fund this year, which again is trying to capture opportunity on India. Like 5 macro trends, I said: manufacturing, financials, consumption, infrastructure, and services. It's a flexi cap fund, open-ended fund, and same fund we have launched after the Gift City, which is dollar denominated. Again, same, which is called India Amritkaal Fund. So these are some of our funds, but I'm sure you'll get details of that. Thank you very much for patient listening. I'm sure I hope I am able to build some perspective for you to how to look at India, whether invest with us or not, but invest into India. That is a very big message I want to leave with. Thank you very much.